My name's Daniel Roy, I'm a sleight of hand magician, and I was a performer on Season 7 of Penn and Teller's Fool Us. Today, I will be reacting to my own performance on the show, and I'll talk you through what was going through my head while I was on stage. So, let's get started.
Welcome back. Let's see if Penn and Teller can handle this next performer.
Spoiler alert, I was handled.
I have two moms and two dads. My dads are gay and my moms are lesbian, and they decided to have and co-parent a kid.
Absolutely true story. I have two moms and two dads. They're not divorced and I'm not adopted. I've got gay dads and lesbian moms, and the two couples have been friends for many years and they decided to have and co-parent a kid. My moms and my dads live about 10 minutes apart. Before college, I would alternate houses every single night, by choice.
My parents are scientists, doctors, and engineers, and I'm a senior at the University of Pennsylvania studying neurobiology, and I'm about to graduate. But rather than go into medicine right after college, I'm actually taking a few years to do magic full-time. I'm really fascinated with the neuroscience of magic and sleight of hand, and also some of the history as well. Card sheets of the 1800s and early 1900s who actually used a lot of modern-day neuroscientific concepts to their advantage. They just didn't know it yet.
So this clip was really fun to film. You can see that I am essentially playing poker with myself 4 times. And this shot, although it takes up just a few seconds, probably took us an hour to film. I would sit at one position on the table and they would do a bit of filming, and then I would sit at another position. The ones where you're just looking at my back were the easy ones. The difficult ones were where you can see my face and where you can see my face again. I push some stuff into the middle, and then when the camera comes back up, I'm in a different spot reaching for stuff in the middle of the table. I would essentially play the first role where I'd push stuff towards the middle, and then while the camera was pointing at the center of the table, I would very quickly get out of one chair, run over to the next chair, and sit down, and then perform the next action, so that by the time the camera panned back up, I was in frame again.
Don't worry, mom and dad. My degree's not going to waste, because tonight I'll be combining what I've learned about sleight of hand and what I've learned about neuroscience to see if I can fool Penn and Teller.
Part of the way that the show works is that you're assigned a team who's going to shoot this interview and video package. You do about an hour to hour and a half long interview on a green screen. That's why there's this giant, brain behind me. You spend 3 or 4 hours doing this super cool video shoot, and it depends on what your style is. So for me, because I do a lot of sleight of hand gambling, we got to go to the high roller suite at the Rio and just do a bunch of sleight of hand with card stuff. It was super fun. So let's take a look at the actual performance.
With 2 randomly selected members of our studio audience, give it up for Daniel Roy.
So you might be wondering, why did I perform for 2 audience members instead of inviting Penn and Teller to the table? Well, first of all, I didn't want them to be so close to my hands. I figure, I'll keep them far away and it'll be harder for them to see what's going on. I'm not above tilting the odds in my favor a little bit in that sense. But the bigger reason is that I'm so used to performing at a table with a spectator on either side of me that I didn't want to deviate from those conditions. I didn't want to put myself into a totally new scenario when I was under, stress and on stage and being filmed for TV. So the 2 audience members really are randomly selected. The producers and stage crew went through the audience, they found 2 volunteers, they mic'd them up. This whole process took like 10-15 minutes, and I was just sitting there on stage kind of nervously waving at Penn and Teller. And they bring them up on stage, and then I had a few minutes to be able to talk with them as they were getting all the cameras set up. And in those few minutes, I just said, thanks so much for being up on stage. I tried to build some rapport, make them feel at home, because, these are people who said, maybe I'll go watch a filming of a TV show. And now they're being mic'd up and put on stage to appear on national TV. So they were a little antsy at first, but they both did a fantastic job. They were really great to work with. I also remember at this moment, as Allison introduced me, I remember in my head just being like, oh my God, it's happening, uh-oh, here goes. So I was inwardly a little bit terrified, but I had practiced and rehearsed so much that I just felt poised and excited and ready to go.
Eric, thanks for helping out. Morgan, thank you so much for helping out. Now, when people see card tricks, they often assume that it's all just manual dexterity. But it turns out that we sleight of hand artists use all of our senses to our advantage. So I'll give you an example of each. So Morgan, as I spread through these cards, I just want you to touch one on the back, and I'll spread through them slowly. This card here, would you hold out your hand for me, but palm down? And I want you to cover that card up. Cover it up completely. Now, Morgan, I'll turn away, and I want you to take a quick peek at the card so you know what it is, and then cover it up again. Have you done that? Yes? So you know what the card is? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Now, theoretically, if I were to look through all of these cards here, I'd be able to see which one was missing. Now, I do apologize. This is a time-consuming process, so try to get it over with as quickly as I can. King of Diamonds.
That's correct.
Is it the King of Diamonds? Indeed, it is the King of Diamonds. But of course, you can't just go looking through the deck if you want to impress anyone. So that's where the other senses come into play. If I listen to this shuffle really carefully, I can hear where her card lands in the deck. So listen with me. Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but I think her card landed 13th from the top. This is your moment to say, yes, I heard it land 13th from the top too. Well, I won't just count down 13 cards. Instead, using only my sense of touch, I will cut off exactly 13 cards. That's 13 cards. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I heard your card land 13th from the top, and the 13th card is the King of Diamonds.
This was a funny moment on stage. I think the woman who was helping me on stage was a little bit more comfortable than the guy. He did a great job nonetheless. And usually at that point in the effect, you give the cards a shuffle. You say, did you hear anything? They'll say, oh yeah, I heard that the card landed at, however many position. Or they'll playfully disagree with you, like, no, I heard it land 18th or something. He was just frozen in place. But I've done this enough times and I've seen that response before. So I have an ad lib prepared for that situation where I explain that, oh no, this is your opportunity to, make it look like you can do the same thing that I can. So in the trick that I was doing, the first 3 phases, the sight, sound, and touch, I was not expecting any of that to fool Penn and Teller. I knew that they'd seen that before, and in fact, I didn't even expect them to make any mention of it when we got to the end and they gave me their theories. Because the parts that were really meant to give them a tough time, or at least make them think, were smell and then taste, which are coming up now.
Now, sure, sight, sound, and touch are all useful, but if you really want to impress people, smell is the sense you want to use. I know it sounds weird, but I'll prove it, okay? So, Eric, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to reach over in a moment and cut over a group of cards from the top of the deck and put them right here. But just so we've got enough cards left over for Morgan, make it a small group of cards, like a quarter of the deck or less, okay? Just cut over a small group of cards from the top and then just put them face down right there. That's perfect. And then what I'd like you to do is I want you to cut over a group of cards from the top and put them here, however many you like.
Okay.
And just leave them face down right there. Perfect. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that playing cards have smells. And it's the ink that gives them their smell. Now, the backs of the cards all have the same color ink and the same amount of ink, so they all smell the same. But the faces of the cards, different colors of ink, different distributions of ink, all of these contribute to the smell. Now, Morgan, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to hold your cards from above like this and just rub them on the mat right there and then put them back, but keep them face down. Rub them on the mat right there and then put them back. Okay, perfect. Here goes. Okay, I'm smelling black-colored ink, and I'm detecting hints of mercury and ferrous oxide, which they only use in the ink for the spades. You'd think they'd use the same ink for the spades and the clubs, but they don't. And it's kind of a medium-ish smell, so I want to say it's probably like maybe an 8 of spades. An 8 of spades. Tell me, Morgan, is this card here the 8 of spades?
That's an 8 of spades.
Indeed, it is the 8 of spades. All right. Last but not least, taste. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to take those cards and hold them under the table. Take them, hold them under the table. Now, once they're under the table, I want you to give them a shuffle. Mix them as much as you like. And then whenever you're satisfied that they're mixed, I want you to spread through the cards and take out any card you want from the middle, then bring everything else back out. Okay, so you've got just one card under the table, yes? Now, keep in mind that he didn't want this card here, nor did he want any of these cards. He wanted the card that he's got under the table. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to stand up, and I want you to stand directly behind me. Stand up, come around and stand directly behind me, And I want you to cover my eyes with your hands like this. Cover up my eyes with your hands like this. Okay, great, but not too hard. I need to, like, still have eyes. And then, Eric, under the table, I want you to tear off a teeny tiny corner of the card. Under the table, really do it. Tear off a teeny tiny corner of that card, and once you've done that, put that corner in my hand. But keep everything else under the table. Okay, here goes. You know, no matter how many times I do this, I will never forget how much I hate the taste of the 7 of spades. What? Would you show that card to everyone here? Is it indeed the 7 of spades?
You'll notice that I say a teeny tiny corner. Now, he gave me a reasonably sized corner, which is what I'm looking for. I always say teeny tiny because if you say anything more than that, sometimes people will tear off like half the card. I was kind of massaging my throat as I was trying to swallow the piece of card. I really do eat it. Usually I'm able to just, chew it up and swallow it. But sometimes it gets a little caught in my throat. And that actually happened on the show. It was caught, I think, like right here in my throat. I wasn't able to fully swallow it. And so I was trying to get through, the 7 of spades and be able to say it without, choking on the piece of card. Now, before being on the show, I of course did a lot of rehearsing. The other thing that I did to prepare was to do a lot of visualization, similar to how athletes might visualize certain parts of a game going, which goes beyond just seeing stuff, but thinking about what's this gonna feel like? What will the shuffle feel like? What will I feel like? What will the room look like? What will I be hearing? So trying to really get a mental picture of the environment and how I wanted things to go. I wasn't visualizing myself fooling them because I don't have any control over that. Either they know how the trick works or they don't. They're either gonna deduce the method because they're aware of it or not. The things that were in my control were how confident and poised I would feel, how related I was with the 2 audience members, how smoothly the sleight of hand would go. That's all stuff that I totally have control over and can affect myself, and so that's what I practiced visualizing. That's what I spent my time thinking about, because whether or not I fool them or how much the audience claps, I've got no control over that. So there's really no point in trying to visualize it when I could just focus on the things that I absolutely could control.
Thank you.
Do you do magic at universities?
Yeah, I go to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and I actually study neurobiology there.
Wow. And are you going to use neurobiology in your magic? And if so, how?
Yeah, I guess a good example is if I say, Allison, are you right or left-handed?
Right.
You're right-handed. The moment she has to answer that question, she has to turn her attention inward, right, to think, oh, am I right or left-handed? So we call this attentional blindness because the truth is, in a magic trick, I don't really care if you're right or left-handed, but I do care about getting you to turn your attention inward for a moment so that I can maybe do some sneaky sleight of hand out in front of you that you wouldn't necessarily detect.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so a narcissist is your best audience.
Exactly. People who are just totally obsessed with themselves. It's very easy to misdirect.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
So Allison is very quick-witted. This interview with Allison isn't a minute long. It's between 5 and 10, sometimes even 15 minutes, depending on how long Penn and Teller have to deliberate.
All right, let's see if Penn and Teller know how you did your trick. Penn, Teller!
Daniel!
So this was the only moment when I felt truly nervous when I heard Penn say, Daniel. It was like, oh my God, Penn Jillette just said my name. Penn Jillette just looked me in the eyes and said my name. And I had like a total adrenaline rush. I was like, oh my God, it's happening. They're gonna talk to me. Are they gonna figure it out? I don't know. So this is the moment when I was actually truly terrified. And in a moment, I think you're going to see a look of truly abject, deer in the headlights terror on my face.
Boy, a lot of magicians try that senses thing, and it's not usually very good. On you, this looks beautiful. And you also handle the cards with such comfort, and you're so natural, and all the moves are natural. And I want to just say a lot of stuff it's not. There's no deck switch. Using the same deck all the way through. There's no rough and smooth. The cards aren't treated that way. You're doing this with raw skill. And we love to see that. We found a lot of the act, toward the end, got a little edgy for us. But other than that, it was a very sweet, very kind act. And now something's been bothering me. When we were on Broadway, there was a musical, Cats. The main song from that show, what was the main song from that show?
Don't know, I never saw it.
Never saw it. You're a very fortunate man.
That's actually true. He was trying to code something to me based on the song from a play, and I have never seen the musical Cats, so I had absolutely no idea what he was getting at.
But Allison will whisper to you what the major song in Cats was. And that might give you an idea that although we loved you, we don't think you fooled us.
I'm super happy to be here. You're spot on. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, so you didn't fool them, but you entertained us all. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Daniel Roy.
So that was the end of the performance clip. They totally nailed it. They absolutely worked out the important parts of the trick. There is one last story. After I walked backstage, one of the stagehands tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Teller wants to talk to you." I'm like, "What?" So I look over to my left, and Teller's standing there. So I had another mini heart attack. He does, in fact, speak. And he said, "You know, you actually fooled both of us individually. You see, part of the trick fooled Penn, and part of the trick fooled me. Unfortunately, the part of the trick that fooled me didn't fool Penn, and the part of the trick that fooled Penn didn't fool me. They really are the perfect team, and I think this is why they're so great together. But they totally got me fair and square, and hopefully in some future season I'll be able to go back and see if I can think of something else that's clever and unorthodox in how it's done." So anyway, I had an absolute blast on the show. I'm incredibly grateful to Penn and Teller for doing something like this. I mean, they've had a long and incredibly successful career. I believe they are the longest-running headlining act in Las Vegas of any type. And they don't have to do this, right? They don't have to have their own TV show. They don't have to judge so many acts and go through all this. But they do it anyway because they're able to give back to the magic community. They're able to give magicians, especially young magicians like me, a platform and a way to start to get our name out there and have some legitimizing material. So I'm incredibly grateful to them for doing this show. And I'm also very grateful to the casting agents and producers for having me on the show, and they were also really great and wonderful to work with. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel and following me on social media. If you're interested in taking private lessons, I teach magicians of all levels, or if you want to book a show, you can contact me by email or on my website. Links are in the description. I'll see you next time.